What is up, everybody? My name is Logan Sharon. Welcome to CTF Sharon Talks Football. I am now rocking a Christmas hat because now it is officially Christmas time. Let's go! Today I'm going to be giving you guys the top 10 NFL players that have been the most forgotten this NFL season. So basically I'm just going to give you a list of 10 NFL players who used to be this great NFL player back then, or used to be in their prime, and then now they're just not heard of anymore. Like, they're just forgotten about. So that is what I'm going to do today. So before we get moving, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, turn on notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos whenever I post. We're all out of the way. Let's get started. So first, before we get into the top 10, I wanted to give one honorable mention, and I wanted to give that honorable mention to Haason Reddick. Overall, this dude has had a pretty slow career. He started off on the Cardinals, really did not do much. He got traded to the Panthers, had a really good season, and then he went to the Eagles to where he became this Pro Bowl all-star defensive end. And then he found himself getting traded to the Jets, where he held out for almost the whole season, decided to start playing this season, and so far he has been god-awful. He's only recorded 0.5 sack, 6 combined tackles, 3 assists, and not getting a single interception or having anything to do with the success of the Jets defense from early on, or any success they've had this rest of the season, because the Jets defense as a whole hasn't been good. So what I'm trying to say is that Haason Reddick held out for most of the season, and after he did hold out, he ended up being pretty terrible, just like a couple of the other players that held out this season. But his case has probably been one of the worst, because he hasn't proved anything to what his Pro Bowl years have shown. So yep, I'm going to have Haason Reddick as an honorable mention. Alright, so now we're in the top 10 in no particular order. The first one I have is Marcus Mariota. I mean, let's be fair. The only time he was really remembered as an NFL quarterback was when he was on the Titans at the start of the year. And then he got traded to the Raiders to be a backup, which people still knew who he was. And then he went to the Falcons to be their starting quarterback. And that's when everyone knew who he was, just for the memes. That year, he really did not have that great of a season. I mean, if you hear his stats, 2,200 passing yards, 15 touchdowns, 9 picks, a passer rating of 88.2. It's not that bad, but it's also not that good either. And then that's when he ended up being traded to different teams to be teams' backups. Like 2023, he was the backup for the Eagles. And then now this year, he's the backup for the Commanders. But now in this case, people don't know who he is anymore. People forgot he was in the league. I know this is kind of a minor one compared to other players you're going to see on this list, but I just wanted to bring this one up just because I think Marcus Mariota, it was just so funny to watch him in 2022, just because of how bad some of his interceptions looked and how bad some of his throws were. So now it's kind of sad to see that he's kind of forgotten. So Marcus Mariota at number 10. The next player I've got on this list is Cordell Patterson. This one might just be because he's getting older and he's just had such a long career that this might just be the last push to possibly get a ring, like another ring. But, people just forget who he is nowadays. Myself included, sometimes I forget he's on the Steelers now. I mean, if you look at his whole career stats, his receiving and rushing isn't all, that great. There's some good stuff to see here or there. But the one thing that makes him one of the best players to play at a position is his kick returning and punt returning. He's one of the best kick returners we'll ever see. But, the last few years, he's played a little bit of running back, mostly on the Falcons. He was actually a pretty good running back for the Falcons when they've needed him. And then as soon as I heard he went to the Steelers, a couple months later, I forgot he was even on the Steelers. And one thing that's so weird to me is that Cordell Patterson went from having a year of having 8 touchdowns in a season to having 0 touchdowns combined in 2 seasons. I guess that's just what happens when you are just getting older and at a certain position and you're just starting to fade. So I love Cordell Patterson, and I wish him the best retirement whenever he retires. Cordell Patterson at number 9. The next player I've got on this list is Austin Ekeler. Dude, his decline needs to be studied, man. It just came out of nowhere, man. He was on the Chargers his whole career. He was a Pro Bowl running back, one of the best receiving backs in the NFL. He had a year where he had over 10 touchdowns 2 years in a row. 2022, he had 13 touchdowns and 107 receptions, man. He was elite, especially in fantasy. And then in 2023, he had one really bad year on the Chargers, and I was defending him even during free agency, saying, like during the offseason, saying that, okay, maybe this was just one bad year. Okay, he's going to the Commanders. Maybe he'll fit in that team, even though at the time I thought that team was going to suck. I thought that team was going to be a decent fit for him, thinking, okay, maybe he'll have another shot, because at the time I also thought Brian Robinson wasn't that good, and so far he's proved me wrong. But so far it's been the same as last year, except a little bit worse. Like, he's just been hurt, and then when he has been playing, he's had a couple flashes of good plays, and then after that, man, I don't know where his talent went. It just faded. And it's really sad to see, because Austin Ekeler has always been one of my favorite players in the NFL. I loved watching him play. He's so talented, so it's just sad to see this talent go. But I guess that's just what happens to the best of them. Austin Ekeler at number 8. The next player I've got on this list is Grady Jarrett. This dude has been on the Falcons his entire career, even when they went to the Super Bowl against the Patriots. And he was a standout defensive player on that team for a while, and then especially this year, he's just been overshadowed. People forget who he is now. Tons of people forget that he's in the league now. It's sad, too, because there's been some plays that he still looks pretty solid, but just overall, he just has not been the same. I mean, to be fair, he has played 9 years on the same team, so that's a pretty long career for a defensive lineman, and just to commit to be on that same team for so long is honestly incredible. So I'm going to give him a little bit of a pass, but it's just kind of sad to see how much he hasn't, he's been declining. But it probably just mostly age. But with all that being said, Grady Jarrett, number 7. The next player I've got on this list is Allen Robinson. Dude, this dude used to be an absolute stud on the Bears, man. He was a stud. He was a Pro Bowl receiver. I honestly didn't know he was on the Jaguars before he went to the Bears, but honestly it makes sense. I guess he was with the 2017 Jaguars team. But mostly, when he was on the Bears, man, he was a standout. He was a very underrated receiver. And then 2021 came along, and he had a really bad year on Chicago. And then after that, he's just team jumped, the rest of his career. Do you know my reaction when I heard found out he was on the Lions? I didn't even know he was on the Lions. When I found out he was on the Lions, I was like, holy shit, if this was 2019, this would be a crazy roster. He's hardly even touched the field on Detroit. He's touched the field here and there, when he was on the Rams or the Steelers. But this year, he's been a practice squad player. He's just forgotten about now. His decline really needs to be studied, man. Allen Robinson at number 6. The next player I've got on this list is Jimmy Garoppolo. Man, his career's been kind of a roller coaster. He's always been a backup for the Patriots for Tom Brady, and then he got traded to the Niners. And then 2019, the year they went to the Super Bowl, he actually had a pretty good season. He actually didn't look too bad. 27 touchdowns, only 13 picks, 3,978 passing yards, and a passer rating 102.0. So I thought he was going to be a pretty decent quarterback. A little bit flawed, but decent. And then he kept playing, and then he kept getting hurt. That's another big part about Jimmy G. He's an injury-prone quarterback. But when he was healthy, man, he was just showing more and more flaws. He's a turnover machine. He can't throw far. He has a noodle arm, and he's just not that good of a quarterback. It's just so divided with Niners fans with opinions on this dude. Before Brock Purdy came in, some people thought that he was actually a good quarterback and he was overhated, and the disrespect's got to stop. And then there's the Niners fans that actually can say that Jimmy G is terrible and he should not be the quarterback for this team. And the Niners agreed. So after Brock Purdy made the start, after he got hurt and saw how great he was, they traded him to the Raiders, and the Raiders paid him way too much money, in my opinion. So now we're all basically thinking to ourselves, okay, if he needs to prove a lot of people wrong this season on the Raiders, if he actually plays well with the Raiders, maybe we were just wrong about him. If he doesn't, then that just means he was carried by the Niners' heavy, talented team. And then he started playing 2023, and man, he was horrible in the Raiders. Just awful. 1,000 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 9 picks, 9 of them, and a passing rating of 77.7. Hardly even playing a season. He got benched really easily. well, also hurt too because he's an injury prone, but still, like, he was just not a good quarterback at all. And now he's just rotting on the bench on the Rams. So, like, honestly, he's just not a starting quarterback. He's a backup. Like, he's just not good. So, Jimmy G at number 5. The next player on this list is Jamal Williams. This one's just more sad because I adore Jamal Williams. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL. And he's on my favorite team too, so that just makes it even better. But just the fact of his decline on the Saints, just is sad to see. Almost his whole career, he's been on the Packers as like a second running back to Aaron Jones, also splitting with A.J. Dillon. Like, it's actually crazy how good their running back room used to be. But now it's just Josh Jacobs doing it all. It's kind of crazy. But then after 2020, they traded him to the Lions in 2021. And he actually was really good on the Lions. He had a really good year in 2021 with 601 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. And then 2022 rolls along. And then it's also like the whole team, but him especially, man. He lit up. 1,000 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns. He led the league in touchdowns that year. Like, he was incredible. And then after that season, after I heard he was getting traded to the Saints, of course I was excited. Like, him and Kamara, I thought that was going to be a great running back duo. And then he just was getting hurt, and then he just wasn't the same, man. Like, it was probably offensive line, too, because our offensive line just sucked. But, man, like, he just was not the same player. I mean, I guess he still is off the field. Like, off the field, he's hilarious, and he's also a really great dude. Like, he's a great human being. But just on the field, he just hasn't been the same. So, yeah, this one's a very sad one because I've always loved Jamal Williams, and to be fair, he has had his best years on the Lions, so honestly, if there's a way to get him back on Detroit to be like their third running back, like, I would love to see that so he can get a ring. Jamal Williams at number 4. The next player we've got on this list is Jamal Adams. Now we're going from a player that I love to a player that I've always hated. I've never liked Jamal Adams, and just seeing his decline just makes me happier. But looking over his career, he was an absolute beast in New York on the Jets when his career started. Like, he was a Pro Bowl safety. And then as soon as he went to Seattle, like, he absolutely sucked, man. Like, 2020 was just, like, a pretty solid year. He had 9.5 sacks for a safety, which is honestly insane. Okay, maybe 2020 was a great year. But after that, like, he just wasn't anything. Like, he had nothing going for him. Like, he was always getting hurt. He was always getting in trouble. And he just wasn't doing anything on the field value to his contract. So after 2023, the Seahawks traded him to the Titans to be their safety. And on the Titans this year, he hasn't done anything. Like, he's probably been like, I don't even know if he was even a starter this year. Like, he was just hardly on the field. So now the Titans dumped him, and then now he's a practice squad safety on the Lions. Like, he's been terrible. And that's just what, talking about his career. Like, he had 4 good seasons, and then after that, just piled of shit. Like, he just hasn't been that special. Jamal Adams at 3. All right, next on the list, we've got Tre'Davious White. This dude was an absolute stud on the Bills, man. Like, he was a Pro Bowl corner, one of the best corners in football, and then he just kept getting hurt, like, significantly hurt, too, like torn ACLs. So then in 2024, they had to trade him to the Rams. And on the Rams, he was absolutely horrible. He just could not, like, do anything. So after, like, mid-season, the Rams dumped him and traded him to the Ravens. To where now on the Ravens, he's starting, but he just hasn't been a key piece. Like, he hasn't been a standout. He hasn't been good. Like, it's just sad to see his decline happen so early. Like, I guess it just happens to the best of them. Just like I was saying with Austin Ekeler. Like, He was an incredible talent from earlier ages to nowadays. Like, he's just not good anymore. Tre'Davious White at number 2. And finally, the last player on this list I've got is Eddie Jackson. This dude's never been, like, the best safety in the league, like, on his team with the Bears. Like, he hasn't been the best, but he's always been one of the best. Like, he's always been a standout safety. And the funny thing is, he's been on the Bears almost his whole career. Like, this is the first year on his career that he's been on a new team. Like, he's always been on the Bears, and he's always been like a Pro Bowl safety there. Until 2023, where he had a very quiet year. He just was not doing anything. Like, he just had nothing amount to what he used to be. to where in 2024, like right before the season began, they traded him to the Ravens. So I was thinking, okay, maybe he might do something this season. But so far, I've heard nothing out of him. I've heard nothing like good come out of him. Like he's been able to like play, but just hasn't been like a Pro Bowler. Like, you know what I mean? And a lot of people just forget who he is nowadays. Like, he's still solid, but he just hasn't been like a Pro Bowler. So this is why I have Eddie Jackson on the list. Okay, I just got done making this list, but I just now realized I forgot one certain player that was that if I would have done an order, would have definitely been number one on this list. Like, I don't even know how I forgot this player, but to put on this list. But I do remember now, so I want to say it right now. Who would be number one on this list, and I guess would be like a number 11, is Dalvin Cook. Like, dude, man, like his decline just he slowed down to a halt, man. Like, he's had like 4 straight 1,000-yard rushing seasons. Like, he was incredible on the Vikings, man. Like, he was one of the best running backs in football. He was quick, he was agile, and he was strong, man. Like, he was a great running back. And then they traded him to the Jets in 2023, and I called that from day one when they traded him, that team was not a good place for him because they already had Breece Hall, who I already knew was going to be a great running back, and that was just not going to be the right place for him. And look what happened. He was terrible on the Jets. He just could not get anything going. Like, I know he got overshadowed by Breece Hall, but even when he played, he wasn't good. So he ended up getting dumped towards the end of the season. He was on the Ravens as like a third-string running back, went just to try to get a ring. And then now he's a practice squad running back for the Cowboys. Like, a team that has horrible running backs. So you would think he would probably get a chance at starting. But no, he's a practice squad on a team with horrible running backs. But overall, he's had an incredible season. I wouldn't say he's had a Hall of Fame career, but he has to be noticed as one of the great running backs for the Vikings. Like, I know Adrian Peterson's their best all time, but I would say Dalvin Cook's like a second or third best. Like, he was a really great running back for the Vikings. And there you guys have it. That was my top 10. Well, I guess I can say 11 now. Top 11 NFL players who have been the most forgotten. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Well, to be honest, that wasn't even my original video plan. Like, I was wanting to do something else, but I'm going to wait to do that Thursday because I have to still prepare for it. So I just wanted to get something out for you guys today because you guys deserve it. So with all that being said, don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, turn on notification bells so you don't miss any of my videos whenever I post. I hope you guys had a very safe Thanksgiving. Have a great holiday season throughout this month. I'm Logan Sharon. I'll see you next time.